Hey everybody, Matt McQueenie, Mix Minus Podcast. It is Sunday, July 14th. It is my brother Mike's birthday. Yesterday was my birthday, July 13th. I turned the ripe old age of 37. I cannot believe I sit here before you as a 37-year-old man. My brother Mike asked me yesterday how old I was. I told him. He said, wow, you're getting old. You're almost 40. And that's true, but do I feel it? No, I really don't. I mean, I feel it in certain senses. I feel it when you wake up in the morning, when you're woken up in the middle of the night by a baby, when you have a little bit much to drink at night, and then you wake up and feel it and you don't have the ability to sleep in. I wonder if that's a lot of what age actually is. It's that you probably have kids at that point in age, and because of that, you're actually not sleeping, and maybe that's aging you as much as age is, because I don't feel quote unquote old. I really don't. I always feel like a young soul. I mean, I have my routines that would make many people think that maybe I'm elderly and I'm old with my little container that has the pills I take every day, and I'm very routinized, and I'm very task oriented, and my schedule is drawn out exactly, and I don't like a lot of change. I don't like a lot of things that veer off course. So maybe in some senses I'm old, but I think the way I feel is young. I think going back to school is helping me feel a little more enthusiastic about things. And I think having children makes you feel that way, because you're sort of growing again through their young eyes. And, but age, you feel it sometimes, but most of the time I don't feel that different. And so take that with as you may, but 37 years old, sitting here, first day or second day of being 37. And I'll tell you what, we made a decision to go away this weekend. I'm actually sitting here in an Airbnb in Clayton, New York, which is right on the St. Lawrence River. And I have to tell you, what a great decision it was. I was deliberating over, poring over results for Airbnbs in the area. I feel very bad about staying in an Airbnb because my family has been coming up to this area since I was born. So, hey, we're looking at 37 plus years, and we have a home in a town about 20 minutes west of here, or maybe south-ish, but 20 minutes away. We have a home in a town called Cape Vincent. And then we also have a home on an island here called Carlton Island, little Cape Cod home. Great experience. My parents have had the house in the town of Cape Vincent, again, since I was born, 37. My mom has been coming to this area since she was a little kid, because there's a campground between this town of Clayton and Cape Vincent that her family used to come up to and stay on the campground. And then eventually her family purchased a cottage in that area. So there's a campground, half of the area, and then the other half are cottages, seasonal cottages. And so she's been coming up here forever, and a lot of her family settled up here for summer, even for full time at certain points of the years. My cousin Lou, who's actually up here, who I'll get into a little bit, he grew up here for about 6 years. He's from Arizona originally, but his family moved here to be close to family. So there's always been a connection to this area. This area has been more connected to my life than almost any of the full-time places I've lived in. This has always been a thread in my life, coming up to this Thousand Islands area. So we have that house, but it's really not in a great condition to stay in, especially when you have little kids. That really changes the calculus. When you have the little kids, you have to really labor over things and think about things a lot differently than you would just for yourselves. And unfortunately, my mom's house there, it's just fallen too much into a state that I can't trust having kids there. Little kids, babies, having a newborn. I just can't. It's nothing against my mom. She's a phenomenal, fantastic woman, and I feel terrible, but we didn't stay there. But I wanted to come up here because my cousin Lou, again, the one who had lived here, the guy I lived with in Arizona when I got out of college, I've talked a lot about that. Lived with him for 4 months. Phenomenal guy. We backpacked through Europe. that summer 15 years ago, after having lived with each other, we went ahead and backpacked through Europe for, I think, 3 weeks when we were talking about it. And we have a strong connection. We, at a point, we're tied at the hip. I'm not the kind of person who has best friends, who I need the connection of another person to feel great about myself. I do have very good friends, but I'm always sort of at arm's length. Lou was like a bond. We were so connected. I don't know if it was the family aspect, the point in time, the age, me moving out there, and him being the person who's from there. But we were completely connected. We did so much together out there. We really packed a lot into those 3 to 4 months that I lived out there. And we spent all of our days together because we would have restaurant jobs at night, but we would wake up, we'd get coffee, we'd go to the gym, we'd get breakfast, we'd come back, have lunch, protein shakes, we'd nap, we would go to our jobs, and then we would reconvene when we got back. It was almost like being off campus at college, living in a house on campus or off campus, however that works. It was a truly interactive, integrative experience with the two of us. So I love the guy. The last time I saw him in person was actually at my wedding, which was December 31st of 2010. So we're looking at coming up on 9 years this New Year's Eve. So about 8.5 years, really, that I have actually seen him in person. And since then, he's gotten married. He's had a child. He took on a family. His wife had 3 previous children. And so we are just at a different point. But being connected to this area, I don't think he actually graduated high school up here in Clayton, but he did go till he was 16. He was here, and then they moved back to Tucson, Arizona, where they had originally been from. Their house actually burned down, a house that's only about 5 blocks from here. And it burned down, I think, in the middle of winter. And from what I've heard, when it burned down, since it was winter, the house was actually held together by ice. So even though it had burned down, the house was still standing. I believe that bathtubs were still standing in place because of that. And then once everything melted, because it gets perma-frozen up here. It is so cold up here in the winter that you cannot even believe it. But the thing was permafrosted, and then it fell, and they basically lost their lives up here. They used it as a chance to regroup, reinvent, and return to Arizona. And they truly are Arizonans. They enjoy it. Their skin needs that heat. And they gave it a go here. 6 years. That can't be dismissed. That's a long period of time. But they did head back. But Lou would have graduated here in 1999, and here we are in 2019. So the people he went to school with here were putting together a 20th reunion, 20th anniversary of that class graduating. And he still stays close to them. I mean, when you're in your adolescence, those are some of the tightest friends you'll ever have. And so he stayed close, and he pinpointed this on the calendar to come out and to visit with these folks on this reunion weekend. And he had been telling me for a while, hey, are you guys going up? Are you going up? Now, of course, it was going to be my birthday weekend, my brother's birthday weekend, so it makes sense. The schedules have changed now that I'm in college, though. I have Tuesday night, Wednesday night classes. I still have to go to work, but I don't want to be taking classes off to go on vacations at this point. I'm very committed to what I'm doing at school. So I looked at the schedule and I said, boom, we can do this. Let me just take a Friday and a Monday off and we will go up there. And I had just been searching for Airbnbs for a long time. And eventually I landed on one that just almost looked too good to be true. When you're looking at Airbnb, it's almost like dating, right? It's like internet dating, where you look at the pictures of the person, you look at the profile, and it's like the perfect angles of the people, and you go, this is one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. And this isn't to dismiss how beautiful they might be on the inside, but you look at the pictures and attraction is what it is, and you see a certain angle and you say, wow, why are they winking at me? This woman's beautiful. Not that I'm a bag of bones or anything, but I'm not getting winked at by women. My wife did, so that's why I married her, I guess. But you look at the pictures and you say, this doesn't equate. And then you see them and you see all angles of them. You do see their insides too. They can be great people, but they don't look like the picture exactly, because we are 360 degree 3D people. We are not one angle. We are not our best angle. We are all angles. And that's why it's sometimes best to see people in the full light. You really should put all pictures of yourself up, the best versions of yourself, but all versions of yourself. We don't want false advertising. But with Airbnbs, it almost feels like that. It's like you're dating a home, a structure, a room. And when you look at it, sometimes you'll see pictures that make you say, this is like a luxury home. This is so beautiful. How on earth am I, what am I seeing? Why isn't this picked up so close to a weekend? Why aren't people bidding on this? Why is the price as low as it is in comparison to other places? And I'll tell you what, first time user of Airbnb here. I've been trying to use it for years, but this was the first time I used it. And it was almost like the first time I got to finally use Uber. And it just all clicked. It made sense. I know there were bad experiences with things, but I put a lot of research into this. And what I saw made me feel good. 4 bedrooms, all this stuff. The kitchen looks beautiful. Nice living room. Beautiful dining room and dining room table. Beautiful light fixtures. It looks all redone. The house on the outside doesn't look great, but inside this home, it's just absolutely beautiful. And it's got a nice porch, sort of all the decorating they've done and the pictures and the sayings on the walls about the lake, because we're very close to the water, so everything is sort of water culture here. And we got here at check-in. They give you the number to the key box. So you pop open the key box. We came in. It was exactly like the pictures shown. And that was really a nice thing to walk in here and just see that everything was exactly like the pictures showed. Nothing was false advertising. Nothing was the right angle. We truly saw every angle in there, and it's an amazing house. Beautiful kitchen, beautiful living room, little game area, beautiful porch. Again, the dining room is great. It just makes you want to have get-togethers with people, pop open bottles of wine, get some food in, and just have a night of it all, which we have done. And then the upstairs is so cool. There's literally 4 bedrooms. Nice master bedroom, which my wife and I are staying, redone bathroom, and then connecting to another almost smaller master bedroom. That's where our son Liam is sleeping. And then we got our son Connor sleeping in a room that has 2 single beds in it at the top of the stairs. And so everyone's able to be in their own room, away from the noise, in the right respect for both of them. And then there's a whole extra room. There's 2 bathrooms upstairs. So there's that master bathroom, and there's another bathroom, and then there's a whole nother room with 2 double beds in it. Really nice long room. It looks like there's almost been an addition on this house. Not 100% sure of that, but it has that feel. And it's just been great. And so I locked that in, and then I told Lou about it. And then he told me the address, and he is literally at an Airbnb, maybe 300 feet up the same road. So it's this weird situation where I haven't seen Lou in 8.5 years. I had these periods of time where we were intensely engaged with one another, 4 months living with each other in Arizona, day in and day out, and never getting sick of each other. He is a great guy. I mean, he is just a tremendously accommodating person. He used to run restaurants, and you can feel that because you have that maitre d' feel. It's not to be walked over, but it's a very engaging person. It's somebody who will start a conversation with anybody and make that person feel that they're as important as anything going on at that moment. I wish I could almost get some of that from him. And he talks about how much I gave to him when I moved out there in helping to reset his life, but he gave so much to me because I miss some of that sociability quotient, some of that. I like to stay into myself. I don't like to over-engage with conversation. The people I like, I will talk till the moon turns into the sun. I will talk to them forever. I'll be on the phone with a friend for an hour, and that friend will say, "Hey, we got to get off. I'm sick of doing this. We get on the phone and we can't have quick calls." So texting is great. But just for folks I don't know, acquaintances, people I'm meeting for the first time, I'm not as engaged in that as I should be. I'm not as interested in talking about their situation, just making small talk. My dad's great at it. My brother's actually great at it. Lou is phenomenal at it. I mean, just the best. And so I got that from him. But we're in this position where now we are 300 feet from each other, same road, and it feels like a sitcom. We're dropping in each other's houses. We're seeing each other constantly. It's amazing when you can create experiences like this. This is really what they say about the millennial generation. And I think I am a millennial, but it's that we don't want things, we want experiences. And that's really what is great about the sharing economy, from Airbnb to Uber, up and down the line. All of these companies that are based on pretty much renting a good. This is an experience. I'm buying something. I'm buying a service in the sense that it's a lodging. I'm buying a hospitality experience. But it's this sharing economy where you buy a good and that good is an experience, but it's in a real thing. And I love it. I love the idea of going into a home that is set up, that has a wine bottle waiting for you, that has some local coffee ground up waiting for you, that has a gift card to a local olive oil place waiting for you. And you're walking into just an experience. And you're walking into living in a reality that you never would otherwise. Sure, you could go to a hotel and that's an experience, but we know what a hotel delivers and we know what it can't deliver. And it can't deliver that comfort of home, but that comfort of a home that you never would have because you never would decorate it this way and you love it being decorated this way. It's just unbelievably nice. So we got this house, he's a couple doors down and we're just seeing each other. We went from this not seeing each other, having these intense times where we see each other, where we're living with each other. We go away for 3 weeks on a backpacking trip. I see him around my wedding, and that's it in 15 years. These intensive pockets of hanging out with a vastness of not, checking in with each other by text or calls every maybe year, but seeing each other on social media, seeing what we're doing. It's, you know what, through social media, you almost are living with the person, but it's at arm's length. It's not day in and day out, but it's cool to just fall into this, to fall right back into your habits and routines. And I got a chance to meet his wife. Great girl. What she was able to do with calming my son Liam down as a mother of 4, I could learn from that. I could learn from the way Lou acts with kids. You don't see this a lot out there. You don't see people trying to make the situation better. You see them living in their own world and kind of dismissing or being dismissive of parents who can't keep their kids behaved. But that's hard. Kids are hard. We see the Instagram pictures of kids and it looks like everything is peaches and cream and everything's amazing, and you know, they love their parents and respect their parents 100% of the time. Pictures do that. That snapshot in time does that. That's why advertising works, because it makes you long for something that is attainable in moments, but it's immortalized in a moment, which makes you think from that moment all experiences can be like that. And they're not. At best, parenting is 75 to 80% great. Like completely figured out, completely manageable, completely you're able to know what predictable. That's the word I'm kind of looking for. But that 20 to 25% where it's not can spike the punch of the times it is good, because it turns you into a bit of a terror. You're yelling at kids. You're losing your cool. You're turning into the Hulk. And for what? It's a little kid who's pushing your buttons and knows how to do it. But you're tired. You're not getting sleep. And so we lose ourselves, just like the kids lose themselves. You never know why it is, but usually it has to do with lack of sleep, lack of stimulation, overstimulation. It's all the same mix, but as adults, we can manage that. As adults, we can regulate that inside. We have the experience of knowing how to get through it. We have the words to be able to speak what we're feeling, or to be able to deflect what we're feeling, so we can get to the next bottle of wine, so we can get to the next long run, so we can get to the next TV show, to the next book, and help bring the heat down, bring the temperature down on what we're feeling. Kids can't do that. Kids just go 0 to 60. They're great, and then all of a sudden they're not stimulated, they're overstimulated, and it's over, and they go crazy. So long story short, it's just been great coming up here, having this reality, getting food locally, bringing in bottles of wine, sitting around a table, talking. And it's much like you're at home because your kids are able to be up in their rooms asleep. And then after 8 p.m., the adults can eat and drink and talk and be adults again. You have a small window. That's what kids do, is they shrink the window you have to be an adult. But you sign up for it. You're okay with it because you're changed forever when you have kids. You really are. That's not to say people who don't have kids don't have a rewarding, fulfilling life. They absolutely do. But I'm saying when you choose to have kids and you do have them and you want to have them, it changes you forever. You're never who you were before. And so even when I see Lou, and we can both think back to those times when we're living in Phoenix completely on our own, completely with no responsibility except covering a $400 a month rent check, which, man, is a light rent check. That's not that bad. Having a pool. We can do whatever we want. We can go wherever we want. We can go to the gym. We can go to pools. We can go to dinner at 11 at night. Whatever you want. But none of us would trade that in for what we have now, even in the worst moments, because we're mature enough now to know that we signed up for it. And we're mature enough to understand that things are never as bad as they seem and they're never as good as they seem. So as great as Phoenix was, as bad as the bad moments of being a parent is in the middle of the night when you have screaming kids, when you have misbehaving kids, it's a yin and a yang. It's a balance. And the great moments of being a parent take you outside of yourself. They make you more than you ever were. Now, with that comes responsibility. It's a responsibility that scares you because you can't control what happens sometimes to these little individuals or as they become bigger individuals. And that scares you. That creates anxiety because you can control what you can control about yourself. You can guide kids and you can basically control them when they're little. But it's that terrible feeling when you read these stories of really bad things happening, especially with little kids. And sometimes not by negligence of the adults, but sometimes crazy things just happen. Sometimes an earthquake happens, a tsunami happens. Sometimes a tree branch falls at the wrong time near the wrong person. Like, you just don't know the lottery of life. There's randomness, there's happenstance, things happen. But it's having a kid that makes you think of those things a lot. And it makes you vulnerable. No matter how figured out you are about yourself, you become vulnerable again, or maybe vulnerable for the first time, even vulnerable for the first time in a half a decade, 2 decades. When you figured that out about yourself, but the minute you bring in another mini you into the world, or you bring a mini you into the world, your vulnerability is there and it's always there. And you can't control that. And that is both the beauty and the burden of being a human being. But that's why we have experiences. That's why this is just a great time. It's surreal. A couple doors down from my cousin Lou again. And just completely, it's really like, it's like you see an alternate reality, like one of these TV shows where you see an alternate reality where we lived in the same town by one another, raising families, growing up. And I probably won't see him for another 10 years again, which is weird. It's also weird how you age and you always look the same to each other for the most part. But I'm happy to have this moment. And I did everything I could, even with the 4.5-month-old and the 4.5-year-old, to make this happen. My wife's happy being in this house. She has friends in Rochester, who, very much like my cousin, who she loves and she lived with in college, in grad school. And they're some of her best friends. But because they live in Rochester, we live in northern New Jersey. We have kids. At best, we would see each other once a year, once every 2 years before kids. Now with kids, we rarely see each other. She rarely even talks on the phone or whatever. Like, there's just not time for it. But the minute we were coming up to northern New York, they live in Rochester, still 2.5 hours from here. But you can kind of send the bat signal out. You can say, hey, we're going to be up here. Do you guys want to do it? And if someone's up for it, if someone has an opening, they do it. And they chose to do it. So they came out here yesterday on my birthday and got here around 5 o'clock. We hung out a little bit. went for a walk, got some food at an amazing local restaurant called Bella's here. Got a couple bottles of wine, care of my mom. She's always got the wine stash, and I'll steal liberally from that when I get home. And so we took that over, and there was this French festival thing, which it was the 51st year of this French festival in this town of Cape Vincent. Not this town, Clayton, but the Cape Vincent town where my family has the house. And it's always on my birthday weekend, if not my actual birthday. There's this festival called French Festival. So again, 51 years. And this little town gets taken over, as a festival can do. This is a quiet, sleepy town 99% of the year. Not a lot going on, though it does have a ferry that can take you over to Canada. So there is a fair amount of daily traffic there. But it's a sleepy town that at one time was a bigger deal as a town, but now it's sort of off the beaten path a little bit. Nice little place, and I've seen through my 37 years the ebbs and flows of it, and it's having its moment, though. It's got a brewery in town, got a nice little coffee place, so it's trying to build itself up a bit. It's had its moments. It never can quite get over the top, though, over that hump, back to where it once was, when a lot of the wealthy of New York City would come up to this area 100 years ago, when we don't really have planes, when we don't have the ability to travel long distances. This would be a long distance, upstate New York. And so a lot of money from New York would build beautiful homes, castles up here, and come stay here on the St. Lawrence. This was the vacation area of the rich. And so it has a former claim on fame with that. And so it has the infrastructure of a once very rich area. But it's not so much. But I'm seeing the rise and fall and rise again. So it does have a nice brewery. The brewery's grown from a little building, and now it's overtaken what was the big restaurant in town called Aubrey's. And so things are happening. But they've always had this French festival. We've always gone there since I was a little kid. Every year it becomes something you potentially do. And it's sort of all these tents that take over. It's arts and crafts, and it's signs, and it's clothes, and wine slushies are a big thing up here now. Apparently everyone had wine slushies. There's a big burgeoning wine industry up here, a lot of white wines. Apparently this area is sort of equivalent to Germany, where a lot of great white wines, sweet white wines come from, where I think Gerwitzers, almost these dessert, semi-sweet, semi-dry, whatever wines. And so there's been that, but there's red wine, and there's these wine slushies. Everyone's getting wine slushies. It's almost weird, because I hadn't even heard of this, and it's like every other tent was a wine slushie, it felt like. But I got some craft coffee, nice whole bean coffee. We got a baguette in town because, of course, it's French festival. So I came back here with my wine, the baguette on my birthday. And it was a random happenstance kind of birthday, because we got our kids to bed, nice early day, because they wore themselves out playing. And my wife's friends from Rochester, both the husband and wife went to school with her. And so she actually lived with them, I believe. And they were instrumental in her life. She was with them every day. And again, our experiences take us far and wide, and these people can be our best friends, just like my cousin, just like her friends, and we just don't get the chance to see them. No matter our best efforts, no matter what we try to do, logistics just can't be bridged. And there's nothing like seeing people in person too. We can FaceTime, we can do video chat, we can text, we can call, but there's something about just being in person that is the key. I had once heard a cab driver tell me that he's alone, right? And when he would sit down to eat each night, he would fire up an iPad and video chat with another person eating at the same time. And I went, wow, that's kind of interesting. So in some ways, I guess you could do that, but it doesn't feel natural to me to be like, hey, cousin Lou, hey, let's fire up the video chat. Well, first of all, there's 2-3 hours difference between us with him living in Arizona, but that doesn't feel authentic to me, to just sit, and I'd rather fire up Netflix on the tablet than sit there. And I guess it gives people the license to drink, because there's something about drinking alone that doesn't feel as kosher, as above board as drinking with people. So if you can kind of, through loophole, bring someone in through video chat, you can now drink. They can drink, and you're conversing with somebody. You're not left to think you're by yourself drinking and eating. But so I guess you could do those things, but we don't do those. Face to face is the important thing. It's just the key. It's sort of the key to everything. And so there I was on my birthday night, having just a phenomenal dinner. I had my eyes on this dinner. We were going to get takeout from this place in town, as I said, Bella's. Just really nice menu. And I had my eyes on these steak tacos with goat cheese, and they did not disappoint. They were great. We fired off a couple of bottles of wine with the group, including the one that was left here, a nice white from a Coyote Moon winery in town here. Again, the little flourishes that an Airbnb can do, leaving that little bottle of wine, giving you a taste of the local flavor. It's just, those little things make the difference. Those little things, that 1% can mean 25%. Sometimes you need to do those little things to get true success. But we're having that, having some bottles of wine. Someone got a nice little German chocolate cake. I told my cousin was like, hey, I'm going to go to the store. Let me know if you need anything. And then my wife was like, oh, tell him to get a cake. And I'm like, geez, thanks. You didn't even get me a cake. But I said, oh, get a cake. He goes, I'm on it. Again, that great accommodating personality. And then he called me. He goes, well, we got a crazy cake situation here. He goes, there's all this, there's cheesecakes, there's this, there's that. There's German chocolate cake. And I was like, let's do German chocolate. And then the whole way home, the 20 minutes from Cape Vincent back to Clayton, I was like, did I make a mistake? Because I'm looking up a German chocolate cake and I'm like, wait a second, there's coconut, there's pecans, there's chocolate. And, you know, I'm neurotic. So I'm thinking about this stupid cake that I had my cousin get from the local store here. But that cake ended up being great. The Rochester friends brought a local delicacy, some cheesecake, or carrot cake. That was great. And you just never know the experiences. You never know what's going to happen if you put yourself out there, if you put yourself in play. If you make the leap to come up here when my cousin was going to be here, that to me was a huge deal in this. That was a great thing to do. And there I was. Who would have thought my 37th birthday would be in a beautiful Airbnb home in Clayton, New York, at a phenomenal long table in a dining room with friends from Rochester, with my cousin there. Just great times. So I've really enjoyed it here. I've really enjoyed what we did. I don't know if we'll be able to do this again without my mom just losing her mind, being really angry, because she probably will be very angry if I were to do this again. But I've been trying to knock out some podcasts with Lou. We did a part 1, so hopefully we'll be able to do a part 2 at some point here. He had to run back home. Just to show you how accommodating he is. He was talking about the fact that his wife sleeps in on Sundays and he takes the 4 kids, and he even puts out the blackout blinds in her room so she can sleep. And not to be ridiculous, but that's not something I would think of doing for my wife, not because I'm mean, but I need the extra set of hands. I need some sleep too. And maybe that's not the right psychology to have in these. Maybe you have to be open to serve more and not think you're being taken advantage of. But he was saying to me, I'm trying to keep the routine going. I'm letting her sleep in on this Sunday. She needs her sleep. So he popped over. We did a little bit of a podcast. Then my son started waking up from his nap, Connor, and we had to cut it at about 30 minutes. So I'm hoping he will be able to come back today and we can get to a part 2, which in the beauty of podcasting, no one will know there were 2 parts except the fact that I told you, because I'll be able to stitch it together in such a way that it just sounds like the conversation is continuing. And it also gets me thinking, who cares if you have to cut 2 parts? If you're listening to a radio show, it's not like the host does 2 straight hours of a show. There will be breaks. He'll get up to go to the bathroom. She'll get up to go to the bathroom. There might be interview parts. There might be solo parts. So who cares? Who cares if you stitch it together a certain way, as long as the product's okay. So hopefully it will be. So yeah, we'll see. There was a few quickies. Why don't I just drop them here? So Rip Torn died. I think it was in his 80s or 90s. Famous actor. 191 credits in TV shows and movies, starting all the way in 1956. And I could not tell you but a few of the things he was ever in. I saw he was in basketball. He's in a couple of things. You know Rip Torn. You just know him. He's ever present. But to tell you I knew he was in something was hard. But there was one movie I knew he was in. It's called Defending Your Life. For some weird reason, this is one of my favorite movies ever. I don't know why I saw this movie when I was a kid, because it came out in 92, so I would have been 10. Or maybe it was 93, whatever, early 90s. I don't know why I saw this movie so much, and I loved it. The premise of the movie, Albert Brooks is in it. He's the main player in it. Meryl Streep's in it as well. The premise of this movie is Albert Brooks, his character is killed in a car accident. And then you go to a place that's not purgatory, it's not heaven, it's not hell, but it's a place where you have to actually defend your life. So everybody's sort of in these white robes, all of those who passed on. And then there is a subsection of people who live in this middle zone between life and ultimate death or rejuvenation. And you're there for like 8 or 10 days. And each day you have to go, and there's a prosecution and there's a defense. And you have to go before judges, and you have to prove that your life was worthy of you moving on to the next stage. And it's literally getting on trolleys and going to like heaven. And the alternate reality is not hell, but it's you're reborn as something else to get another go at deciding if you could go on to the next place you should go, to heaven. And it is so good because it's like the character sits there and is actually watching scenes from their life. So you're getting down to the motivations. Did the person want to be a hero in this time? Did they shirk their responsibility to humanity at a certain time? Did they not run into the fire? Were they not valiant? Did they not stick up for themselves? Did they not? And you're going over and over. And of course, Albert Brooks's life was not suitable to move on. You could tell. But you have the Rip Torn character, who was his defense attorney, fighting for him to move on and really making the case as the true kind of LA-ish lawyer, right? Just going down to the end, making the case. And it is a phenomenal movie. And then Meryl Streep, you could see she had one of these lives where, of course, she's going on. Like the judges and the lawyers, they're all like, they're eating popcorn while they're watching the clips from her life because it's so good. And of course, she's an amazing actress too. So she was great in that. But what happens is the Albert Brooks character and the Meryl Streep character kind of fall in love in this halfway zone, this half world. And Albert Brooks is able to move on because he makes his final move is the most heroic one. And he's running after the trolley with the Meryl Streep character on it, trying to force his way through. He's moving beyond his fears. And in that moment, he finally proves that he has what it takes to move on, and they allow the trolley to open and him to go on. I love this movie. But like, this was my true interaction with Rip Torn. So when he passed on, that's what I thought. But you know what? When you have an oeuvre like that, 191 credits, you're touching a lot of people over a long time, starting in 1956. So rest in peace, Rip Torn. And I would recommend everybody watch Defending Your Life. It's just one of those movies. It's sort of like that movie My Life is another one of those movies. Maybe this was around the same time. Maybe this was the period of time where I was very open to experience. My Life was the Michael Keaton movie where he gets diagnosed with terminal cancer while his wife is pregnant, and he's trying to make it through to the child being born, which, spoiler alert, he does. But what he has in the time remaining, he's also trying to put videos together of giving all of life's lessons to this child yet to be born, and for these videos to be shown to this child at the appropriate times in life. It is so sad and just goosebump inducing. It gives you chills, this movie. Oh, but Defending Your Life, My Life. But this is about Rip Torn, so Defending Your Life. Yeah, so why don't we actually randomly just kind of call it there. I really do appreciate everyone listening. It's been great. It's really cool, again, to be up in an Airbnb. Really enjoyed my time here. I would recommend it. I just want to look at Airbnbs and just drop into realities. Again, it's buying a real thing to get to experience, which is really what we all want. And what people say are the most rewarding things you can buy or experience because they stay with you. They're not things that lose their value as quickly as your attention. They stay with you. I'll never forget the associations I have with this experience. Family coming through, friends coming through. I'll always be able to place a time stamp on being in this home. So this episode was brought to you by Big League Pillows. Go to bigleaguepillows.com, use offer code MIX- and get yourself some free shipping on our beautiful little sports pillow product, which now has almost all professional sports licensing. So you can go get your Dodgers pillow, you can get your Mets pillow, you can get your NBA pillows, I think you can get NHL. You can also get the pre-designed template pillows that we had created, which cover a lot of the kind of colors and teams you would think to get. And you could put your own names on them, on the front, on the back, number. With the pro jerseys, you can do, I believe, just last name. I don't know if you can do number. I don't remember. You might be able to do number and last name. I should know that, being part of the company. But it's a great product. People love it every time they get it. They light up social media with how happy their children, significant others, whoever audience may be, how happy the product makes people. So go get your Big League Pillows at bigleaguepillows.com and use offer code MIX-. All right, folks, we'll call it there. I'm not sure how many days into my 37th year I'll be talking to you again, but it's been nice talking to you today. So I'll talk to you later.